Alright class, so I just want to go over a few things regarding the SwordSlash things where I saw that a lot of you might have struggled a little bit, couldn't figure out how to make it work properly. So first thing is about the sparks. I've seen that a lot of you, in a lot of your SwordSlashes, all the sparks were perfectly synced, like they had no randomness into it. So I'm gonna show you how to put some randomness. So the first thing, also some of you had the wrong rotation for the emitters. So you can see when I'm in the required tab over here, I can put a rotation on my whole particle emitter. If I set it to 0, it's like this, and 45 degrees is like this. So if I have one that's at 45 degree and the other one at minus 45 degree, I get this perfect X. It's as simple as that. I've seen that some of you had I don't know, like some sort of weird offset where it was sort of like this. There's no reason why the emitters should be like that. They should be crossing each other at the center. So so this is it for the position of the emitter itself. Now oh, I had two initial velocities in there. Concerning the randomness in the sparks, because some of you have made it so that the sparks are almost all perfectly synced. Oh, what have I written here? Between 10, 10, 10, 10. Yeah, so for some of you, the sparks look kind of like this, you know, like you can see exactly the shape, and it looks kind of weird. So it was as simple as putting some random numbers over here in the initial velocity. And if you want to break the shape a little bit, you could add a second initial velocity that would sort of add itself to the velocity that is set in the cylinder over here. So if I simply enable these ones over here, then we get that additional randomness there. And I had two of them for some reason, but you get the point. You get this look now. So that's the way I did it for the sparks, and it's actually looking a bit different from what I had earlier. Did I change something else? No, I don't know. Anyway, so there is this. Also, the sparks, they slow down. It's like there's some air resistance, you know, they start fast and then they slow down really quickly. And the way to do this, I don't know what's up, it's looking weird now. Anyway, so the way to do this is to add a drag module, and drag is kind of like limit velocity in Unity. The longer the particle lives, the slower it gets. But while you add some drag, you can also put constant acceleration going downwards. So this becomes your gravity. So a combination of these settings here were giving the sparks that I had in the original one in the video reference. So that's the first thing I wanted to cover. Next thing is regarding the fireballs. A lot of you struggled with the look of the fireball. Let me just it wasn't so much about the movement. Well, some of you actually used meshes with an animated material on it. That was not the way to do it at all. It's really just a bunch of billboard particles, like I mentioned, I think, in one of the videos. So each of those are separate particles. See, I'm spawning. Oh, I'm spawning from a curve actually. Yeah. So my emitter duration is 0.4 seconds. I don't know why I set it to 0.5 over here, but basically from the start it emits a lot of particles, 150, and by the time it gets to 0.5, which it never does because it stops at 0.4, but if it reached all the way to 0.5, it would be at 0. So the emitter uh, the spawn rate of the emitter is just going down like this on this curve, like you see on this curve. So that's the first thing concerning the fireballs, and then the actual material that's on it. I'm just gonna change a couple of settings in here so that we can see it properly, because I disabled everything else. So I'm just gonna give it an initial velocity, um, initial location. I can remove this. And you know what? I'm going to change this so that it's always playing. Emitter loops, set it to 0. Emitter duration doesn't matter. I'm gonna change the number here so that it's a constant 150. If I click restart. Oh, I had more stuff going on. My initial size was also animated. So I want 400 and 150. I'll just leave it to 400. Just bear with me. I'm gonna fix this scale color over live. That's fine. Initial rotation rate. Alright, so if I put some speed over here. Okay. Oh, I still have a delay, do I? Yep. And what else is going on? So my spawn is fine. My lifetime. Oh, I also animated the lifetime so that the last particles to spawn would live longer. I can just leave this to 0.5. My initial size is fine. Initial color. That's the thing. The initial color is also animated, so I'll just leave this to 1. Alright, there we go. I'm gonna put a bit more speed, something like 700, so that we can see the particles apart from each other a bit more. Maybe if I drop this down to 25. Okay, so now I like the animation that I've got on this. So these are the fireballs. So if I just pause it for a second, whoops, you can see that the material is quite simple actually, because I've seen some of you had some very noisy materials, but it's really just a circle in the center, and then you have a sort of a noisy detail on the outside of it. I can reproduce this material pretty quickly, so just gonna create a new one from scratch. Call it fxm or fxmat underscore fireball 02. And I know I told you guys to base yourself off from the slash that we had made. So I can show you how. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do it that way. I'm gonna delete this. I'm simply gonna duplicate our slash. Was that the right one? Yep. Alright, so I'm gonna duplicate this material. Call it fireball 2. Alright, so what do we want to keep from our previous material? We want to keep the colors, obviously, because we had the right color scheme over there. Simply gonna preview the material on this plane over here. So let's just move this a bit closer. So we've got this alpha over there. Vertex color. We've got a noise over here. So if we change the noise for something a bit more square, like one by one. Oh, I wish the preview would be faster. Gets on my nerve. This is the static alpha. Over here we were adding the vertex color, the vertex alpha actually, because it was already baked inside of our mesh. But now that we want a brighter part to be actually in the center, we're just gonna drag a radial gradient in there instead. So if I replace the vertex color with the gradient, now I'm gonna have something that is right at the center. Just gonna click save for things to compile because my computer won't do it. Alright, so we've got this thing over here. Obviously it's not what we want it to look like. So maybe if we simply change the noise that's over here for something a bit more smooth and full. So I'm gonna put this in there. These were the alphas for the slash. We actually don't need them. We're not gonna swipe anything across it, so we can delete all of this. Now, of course, you have to be careful wherever you have a multiply by zero. Multiply by zero gives you something completely black, so you want to get rid of these and just bypass them like such. If I click save, oh, I've got another multiply by zero over here and another one over there. Yeah, is that good? I don't need this. Alright, so I'm already a lot closer to what was in the video. So obviously this is too noisy because there's a lot of detail going on in here. So I just have to change the tiling over here. Maybe if I set it to 0.25 and 0.25. I'm getting something that is a lot closer to it. I think the power value over here, it's powered by 20. Maybe if I drop this down to 2. I am a lot closer to the material that is over here. Now, the details are a bit more crisp, you know, like you can see a lot more going on in there. Maybe I could actually power this noise over there. Like, I don't know, something like 3. Maybe I can power this by 4. Alright, let's see the result. And if I was to put some speed, it's getting there. It's getting there. I'm just gonna change this number over here. You know what, maybe if I don't power it at all. So what if I... Okay, you know what, I will power it for the color, but I won't power it for the alpha. So the color is gonna get a darker tone, while it's going to remain, it's going to retain some alpha over there. So if I just click apply, yes, it's getting closer to it actually. Maybe if I put this, 2 seems like a right number right now. Obviously the detail is getting completely lost in the sphere. The sphere is a bit too much. I'm still gonna use a power down here, but it's going to be a bit different. Okay, so right now I'm multiplying this alpha with this over there. You know what? The opposite of a power is a square root. I'm going to square root this before I multiply it. I think this should do it. Not quite, not quite. Okay, I'm gonna power this one by 1.5. Don't need the square root. Just gonna put this here. And about this, so this is being powered over here by 3. Powering by 1 is kind of like removing the power. What if I multiply this by 0.5? Oh, well, I've got the color gradient multiplier over here. That's the... I don't even need this node. I just need to tweak the number up here. So I can put it down. I said 0.5, so it would be the equivalent of 7.5. What if I drop it even lower to maybe like 3? And if I want to have some crisp details like this, it's all about the alpha. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to alpha boost what we currently have by a number like, say, maybe 5. But I want to make sure that the value don't really get higher than 1, so I saturate it. And then, well, let's just start by plugging this in. Alright, so you get this. So now that it's saturated and that the values are pretty much going to 1 everywhere, now you can multiply the whole thing by a lower value, something like 0.5. I don't see much of a difference. And if I want, you know what, maybe that texture was actually not the right one. Let's just go back here and swap it. And maybe if I lower this again. going a bit too fast, so I can change the speed to something like 0.5. And it's looking a lot closer to what we have here. It's not exactly the same thing, because I'm just doing it from the top of my head like this. But I didn't have to change that many nodes in the end, you see. I kept the color gradient, I kept this multiplier here that came in handy. I just sort of added a power over there, and in the end both of these are the same. So I just changed the vertex color, the vertex alpha that we had plugged in before, by the radial gradient. And that's pretty much it. And this thing over here to make the detail more crisp. So I hope this will be useful for you guys, so that you can understand better what to do, or I don't know, like I know it's hard. I know it's hard, and it took me a lot of time for myself even to get to a point where I can just sort of play around in a shader and actually know what I'm doing. But really, it's all about knowing which node was adding brightness somewhere, and then like, okay, so the node we had here was adding a stripe of brightness, but if I change it to a circle like this, then instead of having a stripe, you get a bright circle in the center, you know. So I hope I hope you understand a bit more about how it was easy to actually get to this material. uh, I don't mean easy in the way that you should have figured it out immediately, but in the way that there wasn't that much work to be done from the shader that we already had. And I wish you good luck for the final assignment. And as always, I'm going to be answering questions, so don't hesitate to ask. I would rather see you all have a really good looking tornado, even though if you've asked for a lot of help, rather than see that some of you have been going in the wrong direction, and maybe, I don't know, maybe you waited too long to work on the actual slash on the fireballs, so you thought it was too late to ask any questions or something. But just don't hesitate to ask. I will guide you, I will help you, okay? So with this, good luck with the final assignment. All right, see ya.